his dentures than me. He doesn't like cookies.
Because I believe so strongly in women's equality, I refuse to give you preferential treatment.
Well, that's really cool, Schmidt. Wait a minute.
Alrighty, so this is a clip from the Neil Cavuto show when they're having a conversation about who should pay for dates. I guess some surveys said a small percentage of men would rather have females pay eventually some point in time in the day. Overwhelmingly, the majority of the men in the survey stated that they would rather pay. But I guess you have Heather Heath is her name. She's some independent women's health advocate, and then you have Michelle Fields, who's supposed to be like the new, younger version of conservatism, or the spokesperson for them. She's a journalist, and I guess they're speaking on it, I guess, from the women who like the same antiquated, patriarchal, traditional roles that feminists wanted to liberate and rid themselves from. But it's a problem because, as you see what Michelle says real quick, men these days, but they ignore the fact that men these days don't have the same environment that men those days had. So we're going to listen to what these ladies had to say about dating. All right.
Too much in love to admit they're too cheap. Guys apparently wrestling with their women and their wallets because a new poll shows more men want women to chip in when they go out. Apparently, women are not as keen about this. To Michelle and Hadley and Steve on what they make of this. Hadley?
Oh, man, you're going to call me old-fashioned, Neil, but I still think that a man should pay. If he asks you out on a date, if it's the first date, then I expect a man to pay. Because, listen, we've got a lot of customs and sort of unspoken rules in the dating world, and while many things can change about gender roles and many things can change about the economy, there's still some value to having those customs in place.
What have you asked the guy?
I probably wouldn't do that, Neil.
Well, you probably don't need to. Michelle, what do you make of that?
Men these days, Neil. Absolutely. The woman is not supposed to pay. If you're courting a lady, you're the one who's supposed to pay.
Wouldn't do that, Neil.
Well, you probably don't need to. Michelle, what do you make of that?
Men these days, Neil. Absolutely. The woman is not supposed to pay. If you're courting a lady, you're the one who's supposed to pay. If you're the one who's initiating this date, which is usually the males initiating the date, they're the ones who have to pay for it. I understand we're in a bad economy. We have 7.6% unemployment, but there's no excuse. There's no excuse to make the woman pay.
Yeah, but the guys aren't doing that great. You guys actually in this workforce are doing better. So pony up, you cheapskates. What do you think of that?
No, I'm going to agree with Hadley. I'm old-fashioned. There are certain traditions. I think that you should treat a woman to a nice date and not make her pay.
Maybe the second date, Steve, then make him pay. What do you make of this?
I'm going to get myself in so much trouble. My expectation is, when I go out on a date with a young lady, is that the first 3 dates, I'm probably going to pay.
Right.
Okay? But if by the second or third date, they're not offering, I won't let them. But if they're not at least offering by the second or third date, I'm going to think this person's selfish. They're, why,
that's very interesting.
Why? But look, if you're a guy and you can't express that, then
you've got problems.
Then you've got problems.
Then
if you don't have the confidence,
then the women should wonder about, well, why isn't he asking me to pay? Because he seems like a wuss. Right?
Exactly.
There are ways, though, to go on a nice date without having to spend a lot of money. Going to a free museum, going to the park, making food yourself, making dinner. There are ways to save money without making the woman pay.
You sound like Alan Alda with a dress. I cannot believe you just said that. But Hadley, I would that was a joke. I didn't want you to get you angry, and nor do I want to get Mr. Alda. But I will say this. What are the expectations after the first few dates? To Steve's point here, that after a while you are then, let's say, in simpatico, you both really get along, it's promising. Then what's wrong with saying, all right, pay up, Hadley?
There's nothing wrong. And I think after it's established that you're in a dating relationship, as women, we should offer to pay. Because, look, in this economy, a study showed that in urban areas, young, single, childless women are actually out-earning their male peers by about 8%. So
yeah, but you're still holding them out, these poor, underpaid SOBs. You're still forcing them to pay up and bringing them further, into poverty.
As a social custom, though, sometimes the question of did the man pay on that first outing helps to distinguish between a casual meal among friends and what's really a date. So I think that these social customs that we have in place, again, they help signal to us where a relationship stands and help us avoid some of the awkwardness that comes with that unsureness.
Well, see, I was such a loser at school. I would offer posters at school saying, "We'll pay for life." But nothing. But Michelle, I mean, the economic environment has changed, right? I mean, women are doing a lot better now in a lot of areas and industries. They're doing much better. So aren't the old rules gone? Aren't the kind of customs that we had in the early days gone?
No, I mean, I think
In industries, they're doing much better. So aren't the old rules gone? Aren't the kind of customs that we had in the early days gone?
No, I mean, I think once you get into a serious relationship, then you can talk about, splitting the check and paying for certain things. But I think on the first few dates, absolutely not.
What do you mean
man
the
is
first few?
supposed
So
to
where's
pay.
the cutoff
The
for you,
first
Michelle?
few.
I mean, you're
Once
stringing
you-
the guy along for how long before you say, ta-ta?
Maybe this is why
Yeah,
I'm
thank
single.
you, Steve.
No, I mean, I think once you get into a serious relationship, that's when you start paying for things.
39%, you see, they're hoping the men don't ask them to pay.
Well,
What connivers, huh?
The other side of this is I would never hold it against a woman if she said that she wanted to pay for the first couple of things. So there's no downside.
They hold it against you for asking them, apparently.
Even here in liberal
Yes.
New York City.
Really? Where was this done, guys? It was a nationwide poll, right? Larry, do we know? Where was this poll? It was nationwide. It wasn't just New York City, because in New York City.
You would think,
Okay.
but no.
Look, at the end of the day, Neil, if the economy is just too hard and it's too hard to go on those fancy dates, I would just remind people, urge them, what's in somebody's heart is much more important at the end of the day than what's in their
You
wallet.
don't mean it. I'll tell you, if I had a dime for every woman who said
Lies.
that, I'd have a lot of dimes.
I really
It's
believe it.
Just like the
I
same
really
women
do.
who told me, Neil, he has a great personality, but no way in hell I'd go out with him again. So I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I don't think you subscribe to that view. I think you could be lying on national TV, Hadley.
I went to see a movie this weekend. I bought the tickets for me and my boyfriend. So
Did
look,
you really?
yeah, I really did.
Who paid for the popcorn, stuff like that?
We didn't have any popcorn.
He struck me as very healthy. That would. They probably held that up like ransom, right, Michelle? I could see her saying, "Well, you know what? I'm not gonna add anything else to this. You want the popcorn, get it yourself." But Michelle, even in this day and age, you're saying chivalry is not dead.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very important. And like I said, look, there are ways to go out on dates without having to spend a lot of money. So there's no excuse for not paying for the woman. I feel like that traditions like this are very important for,
Michelle, I love you dearly, but the first date with you, if the guy were to go to McDonald's and just go to a bridge or something, hey, let's look at the bridge, look at the city, you wouldn't buy that at all. This guy would be like a memory.
No, you could take me out to a nice museum, walk in the park. I would like that. And that doesn't cost very much money. You don't have to take me to McDonald's, but you could, cook a little
right.
something, take
I
me
need
to
a
the
pen
park.
Yeah.
to get this.
I think I took my future
I
wife
feel
at
like
the
you're
time
not
to a
buying
roller derby.
this.
I don't know, it was something like that.
No, but I think we're all in agreement that early in a relationship, that's what most of the people who responded to the poll said. Most of the men still said they'd prefer to pay for the first date.
Yeah,
So
but Steve was saying, cough up after a while, for God's sake. And
At least
I agree with the
contribute.
liberal.
At least contribute.
At
After
least we could
I
do.
agree with
To
that, too.
all a big society, everyone contributes. Absolutely. All right, on Steve's side on this one.
All right, so you heard her say Michelle Fields, and the other females say that they don't like it. They're not feeling this notion of men not paying for the first dates or what have you. You know my philosophy: a first date shouldn't cost any money. Dates after that should be either Dutch or you do something, she does something, back and forth like that. We live in a different world. It's odd to me that she states that men these days but ignore women these days. It's like you can't ignore the fact that females are 51% of the workforce. You can't ignore that you're doing better than men, or at least that's what every statistic and stat and every news report we read is, how many degrees you have and how much education you have. Apparently you have all the everything going in your direction, but when it comes to doing something with what you have now, you don't want to use it. You don't want to do that, right? So 50 years ago, men didn't have to compete with women in the workforce. They didn't have all these female bosses. They didn't have all these female supervisors or what have you. So it's a different world, and you can't ignore that at all. The times have changed. As much as we want to not admit it, feminism not only liberated female, but it also liberated men. And what I mean by that is men don't have to do a lot of the things they had to do during the evil, oppressive patriarchy days. Men didn't, they used their wealth and their means to get the attention of a female. Now men don't even have to do any of that because of the leftist ideology of feminism. You know, you gave a lot of men a break, and in this pause, in this situation where, you know, men had time to think, they kind of feel like it's beneficial more to them the way it is now than it was back then. You know, so it doesn't really help the so-called traditional female, because you know, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't be the successful, high-powered, powerful female, but then expect to have the same traditional, antiquated roles that the left always keep telling us we need to get over. And you know, when men say things like that, or say, you know, I got this or I do that, publicly, they're roasted. You know, they sound archaic. They sound like they want females to go back into the kitchen and be pregnant. You know, I think, you know, even though I understand these females' point of view, but they're completely ignoring the cultural shift and a change in society. And again, you're 51% of the workforce. You 54% of the BA degrees. So things have changed, and mad as you want to be about it, you know, it is what it is. I mean, men don't have to do those things like they used to have anymore. Men can expect you to pull your own weight. And the funny thing is this is what I'm talking about. It's like when you have all these feminists, you know, talking about make men stay at home and be more time with the kids, and you know, CEO of Facebook, COO of Facebook, gotta stop calling her that. Told, you know, she wants men to do more around the house and dumb down their careers so that they can be good house dads. For the most part, we know that women don't like that, don't want that. Yet that's the narrative on the left. That's the narrative. That's the viewpoint that's more popular. That's the only way that females think they'll get the same amount of, you know, success when it comes to leadership in certain fields, because they don't want equality in every field, every opportunity. Not working in coal mines, not sitting on the front lines. Not being firefighters and police officers, things of that nature. They want parity when it comes to politics and CEOs, and that's it. Every other field that is dominated by men, they don't really care if it's too dangerous. But you know, if you don't like these type of men, well, you're gonna have to get used to it, for one, and secondly, you know, you have to thank feminism for them, because they birthed these type of men. This, whether they did it intentionally or the men who looked around and they said, well, wait a minute, I don't have to do any of those things that those men did before me, because we don't have to. Men have more options now in those areas and situations. So you want to be mad at anybody, be mad at the left and be mad at feminism. Encourage this. You know, now you're liberated. You can go out and be all you want to be, and now you've created an environment where men expect you to be all you can be, and still hold on your business as a female and be a woman, and be and keeping the femininity about you, which in some cases is difficult for some women to continue to do. I'm going to talk about this topic deeper in a different video I'm working on for a while, but just basically breaking down the dynamic of how the culture has changed it and how these women ignore, you know, even in the segment they acknowledge that females are doing better, supposedly, hypothetically, whatever. They're doing better than men. Even with that in mind, they still want you to you know, dish out your pockets, even though she's bringing more to the table than you are. Brother Byrne mentioned that point out in a particular video a while ago, where he talked about this, you know, how you get with the guy who dates the female who makes more money than him, yet all the money that he makes, and I'm talking about people who are in a relationship or in a marriage, generally, she outperforms him, but mostly everything that he contributes or everything he earns, he's contributing to the family, to the bills, to the situation. Everything she earns, she gets to keep. So she'll date the guy who makes less, and that's cool, but what she brings to the table, she gets to keep and spend on herself. What he brings to the table gets to pay for all the bills. That thing is real, and I see that in a lot of relationships currently. Like I said before, though, on one hand, like, the left is preaching that they want these men to be good house husbands and fall back and sit at home and do things of that nature, and that's somehow being progressive. On the other hand, it's like when men say, I got this or I do that, you know, they get put in that category. And then we have the whole argument in the black communities that, you know, black men can't handle women who make more money than them or insecure. And on the other hand, when men say, all right, you make more money than me, you can help contribute, you could put some of your money up. Now these same women will criticize these men for not being man enough, for letting them be in a position to where they can utilize their own resources. It's confusing, right? You know, again, if a man does try to do what he, go the patriarchal traditional route, he's some type of a pride issue, he's antiquated, he's outdated, but then when a man takes advantage or lets a woman do whatever she wants to do, even that same woman eventually tends to resent him. So I don't know. I think the conversation needs to be discussed and talked about, because instead of just pointing fingers saying, these men are no good or these men are not men, look at the cultural shifts, look at the cultural changes, and really look at it. Does it benefit a man to do those things anymore? Because it doesn't. We don't, for the most part, we don't have to. It's just the way it is. And in essence, you can thank feminism because they created an environment where men now expect you to handle your business and still look good and still know how to cook, still do all those other feminine things, yet go out in the workforce and still be powerful, because they've been told to not support you and to not help you, and they probably were raised in homes where they had a bunch of happy wife, happy life husbands, and yes, husbands. So that's the only thing they know. So can you be mad at them for this is a product of their environment? This is what a lot of men see today, a lot of young men. When a guy is good at something and dominates the field, it's somehow sexist or oppression. Yet when a female dominates something or does something good in an environment that men have been doing good in since eons, and she's not even doing half as good, we got to pat her on the back and brag and talk about how good women are at it and how much men suck at it. So it is what it is. But we're going to talk about this conversation. Got some cool videos on this topic coming in the future. But come along. Times have changed. You can't get mad at it. Hashtag deal with it.
Come along, come along. I don't know who you done dealt with in the past. Better be self-sufficient, my you don't get a pass. Cause your thighs a little thick and you got a little ass. You looking for a sugar daddy, then go for it. 20-something years old with nothing to show for it. Talking about she was raised different. Well, get your own pockets, bitch, so was I.